Welcome everyone to this podcast where we'll be discussing cloud adoption and migrations within the NHS and how AWS cloud technologies can be integrated to produce significantly positive outcomes for both the employees and patients of the NHS. My name is Oliver King and I'm the AWS Public Sector Specialist here at Bytes, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Andrew Jones, who is the Head of Digital Transformation at AWS and has also worked as a physician in the NHS for over 20 years. I'm sure Andrew will be able to provide insight into the common technological challenges within the NHS and how to also overcome them. I'm also very pleased to be joined by Tom Kurzweil, who is the Chief AWS Solution Architect at Bytes, who also leads his own team of SAs underneath him. They've completed many migration and modernization projects of varying scales, and Tom has a vast amount of experience within the sector, from leading his own IT teams before Bytes and also being a managing director for over 11 years. Thank you for joining. How are you both doing today?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Good to see you both.
Yeah, really good. Likewise, looking forward to having a chat today.
Perfect. So I guess happy to kind of jump straight in then. So from your perspective, Andrew, why would customers choose to move to the cloud that, predominantly on-prem? What kind of benefits can they expect to kind of gain by moving to the cloud, in your opinion?
Yeah, the most important reason is really agility. The ability to build and migrate solutions really quickly, innovate really quickly. Those are really important. And I've been building clinical solutions for the best part of 15 years, and often when you start building an application, the first 3 or 4 months are taken up with acquiring hardware and setting up environments and configuring and structuring databases. And months can literally pass by before you've even started building the application. So, that is a real challenge, and it makes people hesitate to start. So the benefit of the cloud is that you can build things really quickly and in a really agile way. So if you have an idea, you can test it out. You can use all the services on AWS to create really innovative solutions. And, if it doesn't work, you can try something else, and it reduces that barrier. So all of those upfront, costs of capital and time, are just not there. The other reason is cost savings. People, want to deliver these digital services more cost effectively, and properly architected, you can do it much more cheaply on the cloud. Elasticity is really important. So the ability to scale up and down, on a Monday morning when all the healthcare professionals and administrative staff come into a hospital, for example, you need many more resources than you do maybe on a Sunday morning. So, that ability to scale up and down and only pay for what you use is really important to people. And then finally, innovation. I was talking about agility and the number of services that AWS has, but, the ability to use artificial intelligence, machine learning, generative AI, telephony, all immediately available services on AWS means that people can innovate much more quickly and create things that previously might have been out of their reach.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that insight. Tom, on your side, anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all of the things that Andrew mentioned, but I think especially for healthcare, it is that ability to kind of launch new projects and pilots very, very quickly and not have to worry about buying all that hardware. Yeah, about the capacity and everything. And that's absolutely key. And of course, it's key for everybody who moves to AWS as well. But it does mean that if a project ends, for example, or priorities change, then stuff can be turned off, and you simply are not paying for that anymore. And there is a lot of kind of cost optimization and stuff obviously that goes on in the background that you can do to reduce to increase savings even more. But even if you don't do that, as long as you're doing that scaling up and down, which involves being able to architect in the right way to do that, then you're able to save money. And some of the other reasons can be, often people are locked into very expensive licensing agreements on-prem.
Yeah.
And if you use AWS, you get the option, for example, to pay as you go on the licenses as well. So, for example, if you're using Oracle or Microsoft SQL, you can build that into the AWS costs. But of course, you can also potentially, once you're in AWS, look at moving to other ways of storing data, other open source database systems and things like that, which can really unlock huge savings. and can give you a lot more features as well. So there's something called Aurora on AWS, which allows you to do some really technically clever stuff around basically the storage for the database is one thing, and the compute that actually does the crunching is separate. So therefore, you can kind of scale up and down the compute of the database. Whereas it's very difficult to scale databases normally. It's very hard to do that on premises. So you're able to unlock those savings with the database as well. So there are whole loads of stuff like that you can do. But so kind of migrating into AWS is very much the first step, and then you can kind of build on there and keep saving money in a kind of virtuous cycle as you go on. So it's a very exciting first step.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both. And obviously, Andrew, being a physician for over 20 years in the NHS, from your experience, what are the key drivers for potential NHS customers to kind of make that initial move? At what point are they like, okay, we need to seriously consider the cloud, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it comes back to some really fundamental issues about delivering healthcare, and it affects the NHS and it affects healthcare, services across the world. Is that demand has gone up really dramatically in recent years, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, we're all living longer, so our lifespan is much longer. But our health span, so that period of our lives where we are healthy, is not as long proportionately compared with the increase in lifespan. So that creates a larger number of people who have chronic diseases. And many conditions that people, and this is a good news story, many conditions that people used to die from, they are treatable conditions now. Some cancers, cardiovascular disease, some lung diseases. These are conditions now where instead of people dying, they actually have them for maybe 20 years at the end of their life, which requires monitoring and therapy and treatment over that period of time. So the demand on the NHS has gone up. That's in the context of resources remaining more or less static and workforce challenges where the available skills available to the health service are reduced. So if you look at areas like pathology, there aren't enough pathologists or radiologists, and those specialist areas, particularly in very specialist areas of pathology and radiology, for example, there aren't enough clinicians to deliver the service. So all of these things come together where we have very high demand, we have longer periods of ill health amongst the population, and we have limitation on resources. So healthcare organizations are looking for innovative, often digital ways to manage populations, to manage chronic disease in a way which reduces the impact on the workforce and the impact on the resources of the NHS. So going back to what I was saying about the benefits of cloud, the agility and innovation, AWS is a natural place for people to want to go to try and innovate to solve some of these challenges. And we see all sorts of different organizations trying to do that. We see hospital providers migrating solutions. We see hospital providers now sometimes trying to build their own solutions as well. Lots of startups. There's a huge startup community who are trying to find new and innovative ways of managing patients' health and well-being, and everything in between, right up to big enterprises. So I think the reason why people are looking at cloud services in order to solve these problems is because one of the challenges of demand and challenges on resources and workforce, and the real need to find new and innovative ways of managing our health and well-being.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I was very confident that 20 years of physician experience would come into place, and that's really interesting to hear. So appreciate that. Tom, from your point of view, kind of if we move on a bit further, so if a customer is aware of the benefits, they're interested in moving to the cloud, how do they actually go about, making that transition? Where do they sort of start in your eyes, Tom?
Yeah, good question, because it can be a big deal, migrating to AWS, migrating a lot of workloads. So the first place to start always is to know what you've got already. So to do a discovery, and there's various frameworks on AWS that we can use, but one of the most common ones is called MAP, so the Migration Acceleration Program, and that has lots of different phases, and it kind of fits really nicely the kind of normal life cycle of a migration. So the first phase, well, actually before MAP kicks in, the very first phase is to do an assessment of the on-premises system. So we usually call that an optimization and licensing assessment. So we look at what the actual physical or virtual machines are, and also what they're running. So what are the licenses there, and we figure out what the implications of the licensing are, especially, and look at what that might look like on AWS. And the most important part of that is it gives us an estimated cost, sort of annual running cost. And obviously that's really important because that is often a go or no go point right then at the beginning. So that allows us to basically build up a business case, and then the business leaders, or in the case of the NHS, the people in charge of deciding whether to do that, get to see that business case and crunch numbers and see if it stacks up. But once it looks, viable, then we move on to an assess phase, which is where we actually start to plan out workload by workload what things might look like in AWS. And by workload, we usually just mean an application, some system that does something. And so we're able to we kind of go workload by workload, and then we can kind of phase things and work out what would be a good pilot, what would tell us whether we're along the right lines. And then there's another phase called mobilize, where we really get more into the details. We work out, obviously very important to work out the teams and the people who are going to be involved and who are the application owners. We also look at what's involved with migrating, and we look at what the timelines will be. And so that allows us to build a very kind of, I want to say maybe not completely precise, but very kind of structured plan. And that obviously gets fleshed out as you go along. And the idea is that it's almost a bit like different kind of levels, zoom levels. You're getting more and more detail as you go down, but you're also able to zoom out and see the bigger picture. So a lot of what we do is about working out who we're talking to, what they need to know, and kind of getting the appropriate kind of view of the migration. And then, of course, the next stage is to actually migrate. And that's basically us executing the plan. We've got lots and lots of different software and tools that we can use to do different types of migration, whether that's what we call a lift and shift, so really taking what you've got and moving it into AWS pretty much as is, or whether we're doing some aspects of modernization, or other kind of tweaks, if you like, or maybe we even moving to an open source database system from a Microsoft SQL system. So there's all kinds of different things we can do, but it's just having that plan and having that view of the different phases that's really crucial. And that's where having a partner that knows AWS is obviously really key as well, because we can kind of work with AWS, figure out some of the funding available and things like that. So it's just having that plan, and then at every step of the way making sure that it still looks good, making sure nothing's changed. Of course, things always change, so then we're adapting things. So very much, as Andrew said, an agile approach where we're able to kind of change stuff as we go, but at the same time we've got that plan to follow, and make sure that we're kind of keeping in line with that plan as we go along and adjusting it where we need to.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Andrew, from your perspective, obviously I'm aware AWS hosts immersion days, game days to bring NHS trust in their staff in, to kind of do a bit of education when it comes to cloud and how it kind of the whole process works. Would you mind just touching on what this kind of look like for a customer?
Yeah, I mean, we do lots of things which are just beyond the technology itself. So there's lots of programs that we have. Digital skills, really important. So what Tom was saying about how you plan out migrations, one of the most important things is ensuring that the customer's team has the right skills. So we've been putting in a program to increase the digital skills of the NHS workforce. That's really important. We also work outside of the NHS in other areas. We have a Get IT program, and that is one of the areas where we focus on underprivileged groups, people who don't normally take up things like computer science. 13 to 14-year-olds go into schools and really help them raise their digital skills as well. We also help underemployed and unemployed people develop their digital skills, so that it gives them more access to jobs in technology and engineering. So those are some of the things that we do. We run lots of workshops, innovation workshops, to help people really understand how to innovate. One of the most important things about innovation is really understanding your customer. We use a process called working backwards, and the most important question in the working backwards methodology is, who is your customer? and what is their problem. So you can identify the most important benefit of the solution or the activity on the cloud that you're planning to develop. So we run lots of workshops like that. We have a Centre for Digital Innovation at UCL. That's another area where we help innovative research ideas have real societal impact. So there's lots of things that we do above and beyond the day job of helping people work and build within the cloud.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both. Go back to you, Tom. So obviously you mentioned kind of where would customers start in the kind of a migration journey. So how can Bytes themselves kind of support customers, potential customers kind of migrate to the cloud? What sort of expertise, capabilities are we able to offer them?
Well, yeah. So I guess the first thing is we've been doing this for a long time. We're doing a lot of migrations, and a lot of, especially as we kind of got started years ago. Yeah, we've learned a lot of lessons about how to do these migrations. It is really hard. It can be really hard, and one of the key things is people. It really is understanding the organisation and understanding what different roles people have. And making sure that we've got the right people on the client side as well to be able to actually get this thing done. And there's a lot of things so there's a cloud center of excellence idea, which is that we're helping to put in place with the customer a whole kind of framework of learning, training, of kind of understanding what the cloud is and why you would actually migrate. But also it helps us to identify who the key people, the key champions are in the organization who will be helping to drive the migration forward. So it really is making sure we're kind of one team and making sure everybody's on the same page, and that's really key. And I think in the early days of AWS migrations, going back 5 or 6 years ago, it was around very, very much technically focused, right? But actually, we've realised, the technical stuff obviously is important, but so is the people, and it's really having those frameworks, having really clear reporting of where we're at, and making sure we got the right reports to the right people, so everybody can communicate. It really is about communication. So that's a key thing, and I think having a partner that understands AWS as well is important, and also understanding all of the different ways that AWS can help, because AWS are really, really good in terms of encouraging migrations and in terms of funding and in terms of having these frameworks. So there's a huge wealth of training and documentation available as well. So navigating that can be challenging, but we can help with that. It's really about kind of immersing yourself in it, and things like you mentioned immersion days, which are great. So they're like normally a day long, or sometimes a bit less than a day event, where you can actually get together with AWS or with the partner and kind of explore stuff in a lot of detail. So I went on an immersion day the other day, which was a sustainability immersion day, for example. And that was really great. For us, we do a lot of optimization, a lot of cost optimization. Sustainability is obviously, especially for organizations, public sector organizations and the NHS, incredibly important. Sustainability and cost savings often go hand in hand. But it's great for us to be able to go to, in this case, it was Amazon's offices in Manchester, and just spend a day kind of really, really getting to grips with all the tools that AWS gives us for that. In that case, for kind of understanding sustainability. But there's a whole range of immersion days. I think there's hundreds, plenty thousands on the database. So an awful lot of stuff. And it's just kind of being able to do those and make use of those. And it's great. I mean, it's a journey, as I'm sure everybody's very fond of saying. But the first step is very much understanding what you've got and what it might look like in AWS, and then it doesn't stop. You keep optimizing, you keep innovating, and the idea of moving to AWS is you can do that innovation much more quickly and much more easily.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tom. Andrew, kind of leveraging your experience of working in the NHS then. So what are the latest trends you're currently seeing in the healthcare and health tech industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we're really looking at is how to remove some of that low value administrative work that clinicians and administrative staff have to do. So, some studies have shown that up to nearly 50% of clinical time is spent on administration. I mean, I certainly remember when I'm with patients. I'll have a conversation with that patient, and every piece of information, useful piece of information, is contained within that conversation. But then I'll have to type that into a electronic patient record. I might then have to dictate a letter of referral or something like that, fill in a few forms, duplicating that information over and over again. So one of the things that we've developed at AWS is Health Scribe. So Health Scribe is a combination of our two technologies, which is the ability to turn speech into text, and then to be able to take that text and use natural language processing to understand it. And so what Health Scribe attempts to do is listen to these conversations and extract the key entities, key pieces of information, and help that clinician document that consultation. So that's one really important thing, which I think is going to help people hugely. Just outside of the immediate healthcare context, but looking at maybe life sciences relative to healthcare, we have Health Omics. This is a new service which enables researchers who are doing research into genomics and multi-omics to be able to manage and process that genomic data. Similarly, we have AWS Health Imaging, which allows organizations to store and analyze imaging data. And of course, we couldn't go through any conversation like this without mentioning generative AI. We now have Bedrock agents. So Bedrock is our generative AI solution, enables people to use some of the most widely available and useful foundation models from people like Anthropic, for example. So that's been really fascinating for our customers who are really interested in looking at how generative AI can automate processes and create authentic communications with patients, for example. And then finally, we have something called clean rooms, and clean rooms has been, I think, a real innovation, because one of the challenges that healthcare organizations have is they want to do things like build machine learning models, but obviously they have a responsibility to protect the privacy of the data and the patient data within that. So clean rooms allows organizations to have complete control over that data, retain its privacy, but still build machine learning models which can help automate processes. So those are a few really interesting things. I think a big theme for healthcare right now is health equity as well. And one of the things we're trying to do in order to help with in health equity is our health equity initiative. So we've made $60 million available for organizations who are building solutions to address health equity and help fund that. So I think those are some of the interesting things which are going on in healthcare and health tech.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Appreciate we covered a fair amount of information. So if you are watching this and you'd like to, have a call or learn more information, kind of talk about anything in further detail, myself, Andrew's, and Tom's contact details will be listed. Please feel free to get in touch, as we'd love to have any conversations. And thank you very much for listening.